Hello everybody and welcome to this IMI webinar on the core topic on dry age-related macular degeneration. My name is Catherine Brett and I'm going to start today by giving you a little introduction into how to use GoToWebinar, and after that my colleague Nathalie Seigneuret will give an introduction and give you some tips as well on how to put together a good application. And after that, Friedrich Asmus, who is calling in from Bayer in Berlin, will present the core topic, which is obviously the main point of today's webinar. At the end of the webinar, there'll be plenty of time for questions and answers, and I'll be explaining how you can ask questions in just a moment. So, how to use GoToWebinar. As you can see at the top right-hand corner of your screen, you should be able to see a control panel, which you can expand and minimize, which you can make go full screen, and you can use it also to attract our attention by raising and lowering your hand. If you want to listen in over your computer's mic and speakers, it's very simple. Just select that option in your audio panel, and if you can't hear us, firstly check that your speakers are switched on and make sure that GoToWebinar is picking up the right speakers by doing a sound check. If you want to listen in over the phone, then again just select telephone in the audio panel and dial the numbers given. If you want a number other than the one given automatically, which is usually an American number, you can find another number for your own country, hopefully under additional numbers. You just need to dial all those numbers and follow the instructions given. The most important thing for most of you, how to ask questions. The simplest way is to type your question into the questions panel and click on send. You can send questions in this way at any time during the webinar and we'll take them all in one go at the end. If you want to ask your question over the phone, you should just click on the raise hand icon and then we can unmute you. So before we get started, just to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and will be published online afterwards. We will also publish the presentation slides and we'll be circulating a participant list for you as well. So on that note, I will hand over to Nathalie Seigneuret, who is the Scientific Officer at IMI responsible for this topic.
Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon, everyone. The purpose of today's webinar is to provide you with some information on the core topic, which has been published as part of the core proposal. So the aspect will cover the objective of the project, the need for the public-private collaborative research, the structure of the project, the expected contribution of the applicants, what is expected to bring contribution by the EFPIA participants, and the key deliverables of the project. We will not cover the rules on the procedure. This will take place in a webinar which occurs tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And again, the presentation on the recording will be available on our website afterwards. Now, just a couple of tips for submitting a proposal. It's very important after this webinar that you understand the core topic, but that you read as well all the relevant material that are on the IMI website. It's important to understand the IMI2 rules and to respect them. If you have any questions, you need to contact the IMI program office and not directly the topic coordinators, the EFPIA topic coordinators. And we will be here to help you as much as we can. Of course, we cannot write for you the proposal. You need to provide sufficient information so that the reviewers are able to make the evaluation of your proposal. So you need to put yourself in the shoes of the reviewers. Things that may seem obvious on your side may not be so obvious for someone reading your short proposal. Remember to start working early, and pre-materials are already available, and even sometime before the call launch. You need to finalize and submit your proposal following the instruction on our website on how to submit the proposal. And for more tips, you have the address on our website. Now again, common mistakes. Admissibility and eligibility criteria not met. Missed deadlines. Please make sure that you submit your proposal within the deadline, which is on the 17th of March. Proposal out of scope. Unfortunately, this may occur, but in this case, there are poor chance to move forward. Submitted text does not respect the proposal template. So again, make sure to read all the documents which are available on our website to ensure that you follow the template. The minimum number of legal entities, again, there are some rules to be respected. Make sure that you are aware of them. And to increase your chance of success, be aware that it's important to make sure that you have the right partners, but avoid to have redundancy between the partners. Make sure that you address all objectives of the core topic, and make sure that your proposal will have an impact, because a proposal that may have a limited impact despite scientific excellence may have less chance of success. Now, how to find project partners? Well, there are several ways for you to consider. Of course, network with your contacts already. It's the start. As Catherine said, after this webinar, you will receive the list of participants to the webinar, so you can as well start networking with the participants. You may use our partner search tool, which is a way as well to put your expertise and what you are looking for. You can get in touch with your local IMI contact points, and on this slide you have the address of the contact points. Talk to your health national contact points, and network on the social media, and you may use your IMI LinkedIn group for that. For any question, and as we mentioned before, please direct all your questions to us and contact IMI through our info desk at imieuropa.eu. And on this note now, I will pass the floor to Freddy Rasmus, who is the global clinical leader and clinical development of ophthalmology in Bayer, who will make the presentation of the core topic.
Thank you, Nathalie.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Nathalie, for this kind introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really excited that this core topic has now been launched as of December and is in the phase where proposals in the first stage are generated and have to be submitted by March, as Nathalie said. Dry age-related macular degeneration is surely one of the most exciting topics in retinology and one with a high unmet medical need, which should be addressed by the current project. Next slide. So the background is obviously age-related macular degeneration, abbreviated AMD, which is a chronic progressive disease which finally results in a massively impaired visual function. It's among the leading causes of legal blindness worldwide, and this problem is especially severe in industrialized countries, as other ophthalmological issues such as glaucoma and cataract are tackled here, but AMD is still one of the major health issues in an aging population. As other chronic progressive diseases, it can be categorized as early, intermediate, and late stage, and especially the late stage has complications that have the highest impact on visual function. For this call, we used the traditional term dry AMD. However, we are aware that this comprises several stages. Of note, the stage intermediate AMD, but also a late stage or so-called advanced AMD, which can be complicated by geographic atrophy. It does not include neovascular wet AMD. Because, as you all know, wet AMD is the variant that can be tackled by available medication. Dry AMD, intermediate AMD, and late-stage AMD, complicated by GA, are hard to treat if untreatable. But due to pilot studies of the scientific community of you, we know that there is visual impairment of visual function even at earlier stages of AMD, starting as early as early AMD, but of note especially in intermediate AMD, and not only in late stage AMD. We have some epidemiological numbers. So GA seems to affect up to 10% of all AMD patients. And just as a as a brief figure, the UK prevalence is currently estimated to be around 300,000 patients, and with an aging population, this is expected to rise to even higher figures, such as 400,000 patients by 2020. Next slide. As I said, there are effective treatment options for the neovascular wet AMD. However, there are currently no approved therapeutics for intermediate AMD, and it's a transition to geographic atrophy or for a progression of geographic atrophy. We know that there's a huge program by Roche Genentech on lampalizumab underway, but this has not resulted in approval yet. The prerequisite for any successful drug development in both disease stages mentioned are novel, appropriate, and most importantly, validated clinical endpoints. Commonly, they should have high sensitivity and specificity, should also be meaningful to patients, so their patient relevance should be proven, and they need to measure visual dysfunction beyond best corrected visual acuity, which is the standard accepted clinical endpoint in retinological trials. And this is, next slide, for a medical reason, because because BCVA may be unchanged in intermediate AMD and also in quite advanced late-stage AMD complicated by GA if the fovea is spared. So BCVA is not an appropriate clinical endpoint for these important disease stages. So other measures of visual function or dysfunction, which are already known to be abnormal from pilot studies in intermediate AMD and early GA, need to be tested and looked at. Such candidates are contrast sensitivity, dark adaptation, or visual field deficits. This is only a short list. Please don't take this as the full list and the list you have to stick to as it's written in the core topic test. Candidate assessments that you will include in your project proposals need to be justified and based on existing pilot studies and data, and need to be prioritized. For the use in any clinical trials with a regulatory and patient access intention, these such candidate clinical endpoints need to be systematically validated in adequate patient populations, so the patient populations need to really reflect the disease state that you want to test, not just two normal patients, but adequately sized, and also from the disease state appropriately categorized. And this is the prerequisite to be then acceptable for regulatory authorities for so-called HTA bodies and for payors. Because finally, if we want to see improvement for patients, we need to convince these bodies to accept our clinical trial data, and last but not least, also the payors to reimburse any future treatments. Next slide, please. So why have we proposed to execute this project in the framework of the IMI? There's a strong need for public-private collaboration, meaning the pharma companies and imaging companies alone will most likely not be successful to tackle these problems in the given period of time without a strong public collaboration, meaning a collaboration with academia and small enterprises. But however, we need to contribute our expertise from different areas. So the pharmaceutical companies have their expertise in clinical drug development and know what regulatory agencies, these HTA bodies and payors, want to see to accept clinical trials and clinical endpoints. Academic institutions are specialized and have their research focus in methods to evaluate visual function beyond BCVA, have their track record in imaging, in innovative imaging, and also know how to set up a specific PRO and other measures of patient-reported health in ophthalmology and retinology. For this program, it's important that also academic and contract research organizations are mentioned, as we can expect rather largely sized clinical trial program, and this has to be efficient and lean in setup and conduct to stay within the given budget frame. And on the other hand, it has to fulfill global standards for clinical trials to really be then acceptable by the target audience, which are the regulators and payors. As we not only want to see functional assessments in as part of these trials, we also want to have imaging. So we need imaging and medical device companies contributing their expertise in the development of contemporary state-of-the-art imaging and functional assessment methods. As you hear later, we have one imaging company already on board, which is SAIS, but of course, also as part of the a public consortium, you can imagine that other companies, for example, companies manufacturing functional assessment methodologies could come on board. And last and really not least, to mention patients, patient organization users and caregivers. The third column, the third foundation of this project is that it has to be in-depth assessed how our imaging results and the functional endpoints really relate to the patient experience, to patient-reported health. So we need input from patient and patient organization to really prove that the results, our scientific results, are meaningful to patients. Next slide. This leads to the objective of the full project. So it's validation of clinical endpoint and biomarkers. I want to point you to the definitions of the core topic text, to the differentiation of biomarker clinical endpoint versus risk factors. This is very important for a successful application, that you differentiate the more dynamic clinical endpoints and biomarkers from more static measures as risk factors. And these clinical endpoints and biomarkers should be looked at in intermediate AMD and progression of intermediate AMD to late stage AMD complicated by GA. It's not the main focus to develop additional biomarkers for GA once it has become manifest. It's more important for this project to look at the progression of intermediate AMD to manifest GA. As I said before, such a trial program has to be appropriately designed, so it has to be decided if one trial is enough, or if there's a trial program comprising several parts that fit together to generate a data set which is convincing. And also each of these trials, or the one trial that is proposed, should be adequately sized from a statistical viewpoint to really prove data that, as I said, are convincing. And there are three columns of this project. First are assessments of the functional impairment in the two disease states mentioned beyond BCVA. Then equally important, measures of patient-reported health. And the third is because we want to see how functional impairment is correlated to structural deficits, is the identification of structural imaging biomarkers as a surrogate for the functional impairment. It's equally important to mention what is not in focus. Not in focus is de novo development of functional and imaging assessment technologies, because this is considered to be not possible within the 5-year project frame. The current objective is already challenging enough, so developing any new technology from scratch is not considered possible. And similarly, this project proposal, this core topic has no focus on molecular biomarkers. We know the role of genotyping as risk factors for patient stratification, and we also know, and this is also written in the core topic text, that there may be an opportunity in doing appropriate biobanking within the given budget, not putting a main focus there to exploit potential synergies with other consortia, and to exploit this opportunity to also assess molecular biomarkers in that expectedly extremely well characterized patient collective. But this is not the main focus of this core topic. Next slide. So why can we consider this core topic pre-competitive? As I said, dry AMD is an area where there is no approved medication, so there is no competition among pharma companies in this area so far. We are in the stage of developing a toolbox for future research of public and private researchers. So this is a common interest of the community to get the toolbox for future trials. And as I said, this toolbox has to be validated in respect to functional and imaging assessments, and also this needs to cover patient-reported health measures. And once we have this is expected to extremely speed up the development process in this research area, because currently the bottleneck is really non-availability of appropriately characterized endpoints. Next slide, and this is similar, but detailing the expected impact on the R&D process in this field. So we will generate clinical data which will be appropriate to get acceptance by regulators and payors. So we will have an additional endpoint to BCVA, and one that can be used in other disease states. And this will enable future studies with these newly established endpoints. And of course, this is expected to have an extremely positive impact on clinical development, covering all clinical stages. So it could be of use in early studies where you look at proof of concept. Has this future drug really the potential to benefit patients, and of course through late stage development in phase 3. These novel endpoints will allow decision making and prioritization of candidate drugs for future clinical development, and thereby significantly accelerate the drug development process. And as said before, it's of utmost importance that the endpoints that we are using then will also be patient relevant and not only just cosmetics to the retinal morphology. Next slide. We have suggested an architecture of the project as we expect that the different areas and the different areas of expertise in this project have to work closely interlinked to result in tangible and useful results. So, of course, the backbone will be the so-called working package 1, the clinical trial working package, which includes all the operationalization of the clinical trial program, but also regulatory interactions, and especially for the regulatory interaction, EFPIA and the pharma consortium in this project will provide a strong help, but also in the how to set up and operationalize the clinical trials. Second working package is about functional endpoints. These are the colleagues who have their expertise in how to do these functional assessments. These will be done expectedly local at clinical trial sites, but it's also expected there will be like a reading center, a functional endpoint assessment center providing guidance on the interpretations of the functional assessments and aligning them across sites. Third working package is about patient-reported health and health economy. Here is expected that people with expertise in this area will contribute to the establishment of these novel PRO and other health measures, patient-reported health measures. Working package 4 is about anatomical and imaging endpoints. This is close to the classical central reading center, so it's expected that there is one central reading center giving oversight on how to do the imaging assessment, and then also analyzes these images. And in the context of an IMI project, it is really recommended to have a project management office that is familiar with the regulations of IMI and gives guidance on how to organize budget and distribute this correctly. So as I expected, there will be questions on this. We also have for the Q&A section additional slides on this where we can probably enter on some details on the working package structure that we have suggested so far. Next slide. What is expected from the applicants? So as the areas of expertise for this project are rather diverse, it is expected that this is a multifaceted consortium. On the other hand, from our experience, we would really think that a consortium of 10 to 12 members from the public side would be sufficient to guide this. So what are the areas of expertise? So we need, of course, strong practical expertise in the successful conduct of international multi-center trials in ophthalmology. Not just any trial experience, we really want to see people who have done their homework in ophthalmological clinical trials and who can be partners for industry in designing, setting up, and really driving these trials. Then, of course, to meet the endpoint question, we need strong expertise in the functional assessment methodologies, not just BCVA, but of course the innovative and novel ones to really tackle intermediate AMD and its progression to GA. Then we need equally strong expertise in state-of-the-art imaging techniques, including approaches of multimodal imaging and analyzing of this data. And the third column is establishment and validation of measures of patient-reported health. Equally strong expertise in the consortium of establishment and validation of such measures in ophthalmology is needed. It is of benefit if members of the consortium already have had interactions with regulators and payors, ideally have conducted already or participated in an IMI qualification procedure of such novel methodologies in the past. And they, of course, need health economic expertise as part of the working packages deals with establishment of health utilities on the new functional assessments. And as I said, there needs to be expertise in project management within the context of IMI grounds. So next slide. What is the EFPIA, the pharmaceutical company consortium, and what is the contribution of this consortium? So the consortium on the pharmaceutical and imaging side consists of Bayer, Novartis, and Janssen, Roche, and Zeiss. So strong leaders and contributors who can really drive this together with the public partners. You may have seen that for this project there is a rather sizable proportion of the in-kind contribution has already been converted to cash. This is based on the experience that currently most of the EFPIA partners are outsourcing their clinical trials. So part of the operational conduct will also be outsourced from the EFPIA side, and it's expected that the money can be used jointly with the money from the public consortium to really drive these trials. However, this does not mean that does not mean that there is no engagement of the IMPIA sites. We have from all companies a strong commitment to involve their senior researchers in really driving all of the working packages 1 to 4, and to get involved in the guidance structure of the project. So there will be input for all areas from EFPIA. So we will work on this jointly to get a common understanding where we want to go and which option will be best based on your first stage project proposal. So, and this leads me to the next slide. What's in it for you? So we see that this is a unique opportunity to be part of a team that will make that is expected to make game-changing contribution to the way clinical research is carried out in dry AMD. The core of it is that this team will establish an innovative clinical trial program to validate functional endpoints, their anatomical correlates, and also show the significance for patients in these disease conditions. You can really provide from your clinical practice, from your clinical research already now, meaningful input in these regulatory interactions to regulators, and design the trial program in the way you think, based on your research, is best for patients and really covers the nature of the disease states that we want to study. We will then jointly generate a toolbox that is optimally interlinked, function and structure, function and patient-reported outcomes, so that these tools can be used interchangeably. And this, of course, will not only fuel the pharma research, but also your future research projects and trials. Because as with all projects of this size, there will be new hypotheses along the way and new fuel for additional projects once this challenging project is completed and we have the results that we want. But there will be surely also projects in the future based on the hypothesis we can generate as side products of this project. Last 3 slides are summarizing the key deliverables, somehow repeating what I said. So the first deliverable is development of clinical endpoints for impaired visual function beyond BCVA. This comprises validation of these functional endpoints, and the disease stages that should be looked at are intermediate AMD and its progression to late stage AMD complicated by GA. And as I said before, to really establish health economic models, we need to have utility measures based on these functional assessments, because the current ones, in my understanding, are only based on BCVA, but not appropriately on other functional assessments. Next slide. The second key deliverable is development of measures of patient-reported health. We expect that probably the backbone of this deliverable will be patient-reported outcomes. However, we are open to other approaches covering patient-reported health, like OPSROs, other tests in virtual realities. This is not a final list, so based on your pre-existing research and based on an appropriate justification in the first stage proposal, we are open to consider such additional measures, especially if you would have shown that PROs have the limitations in the target disease, or in the target disease of this core topic. Maybe I should note that, especially for this deliverable, it may be necessary to also include the neighboring disease states, which are early AMD or manifest GA, to really get the contrast how this PRO tool behaves in the neighboring disease states as compared to the main target, which is intermediate AMD and its progression to GA. The last deliverable is getting an idea on the correlation of functional assessments of impaired vision with structural deficits as assessed with state-of-the-art imaging technologies. There's a high need for establishing structural imaging endpoints as surrogate markers of the functional deficits, and for this, multimodal imaging may be necessary and is encouraged in the call text. So this would be, in brief, my presentation of the core topic text, and I think we can now open it up for discussion, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Friedrich. And if PowerPoint will just cooperate with me, I will remind you how to ask questions. So it's very simple. You can type your question into the questions panel and click on send, or you can attract our attention by raising your hand and we can ask you the question over the phone. So we did actually get one question in via email in advance, and it's more one for Natalie, as it's a bit about our rules and procedures. So the first question is, how much budget is available as a direct budget as opposed to in kind? In other words, how much budget is available for things like partner salary costs? Maybe you could briefly explain how IMI works with the budget there, Natalie.
Yes, thank you for the question. So you may have seen already that in the core topic text, there is an indicative budget with the IMI contribution being already set to a maximum of a bit more than 8 million. That means that this is the part which is available for all the beneficiaries eligible for IMI funding. On the other side, we have the budget, the in-kind contribution that are being put, the same amount put forward by the EFPIA companies. So this will be, as mentioned by Fritz, mainly as in-kind and cash contribution. But the budget available for the eligible beneficiary for IMI funding will be a bit more than 8 million. This is mentioned in the topic text.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. And another question, can you include a partner from Switzerland, and how can you best include a colleague from Switzerland?
So partners from Switzerland can participate to IMI action. However, they are not eligible for funding.
Is the short answer. Unfortunately, yes, you can't get funding. However, yes, they can participate. So thank you.
But maybe a question from my side: could they be subcontracted as a trial site?
Again, that will have to be subcontracting has to be assessed and looked at. So it might be but it will have to be justified as well.
That's but not straightforward, but
no, it's not straightforward like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Another question now is coming from Matthias Maticek, who asks, can SMEs participate? And the answer is yes, you can. We would love you to participate. In terms of funding, it would depend on where you are based, because as Natalie just explained, what applies for Switzerland applies for other countries which are not EU member states and are not associated to the framework programs. Generally, those organisations are not eligible to receive funding. But if you're based inside the EU or a Horizon 2020 country and you meet the EU's definition of an SME, yes, you can participate. And I would say as well, if anyone has any questions about rules and procedures, who can participate, who can get funding, I really would advise you to sign up for our webinar tomorrow on the rules and procedures, because that's where we'll have our in-house lawyers and finance people there who are experts in all of these matters.
Yes, and I will certainly invite those of you who have this kind of question to attend this webinar, because while we are saying that, of course, there might be some exceptional circumstances if the expertise is felt absolutely then necessary for the successful of the project, but that will have to be assessed. And at the second stage, if already successful at the first stage. So this is important to keep in mind.
Okay. We have a question now for you, Friedrich, on the topic. It's from Andrew Lottery, and he asks, do you think 2 prospective trials would be better than 1 trial to demonstrate reproducibility to regulators, or is a larger single trial better?
Yeah, this is somehow a philosophical question. So there are many approaches to design the trials. I'm not sure if that need completely independent. That need to be completely independent trials. So once that is from patient side convincing, and maybe you can also define this within your trial program in the a sample that is the identification and then confirmation sample. But I would say that the methods that are eligible should already be quite advanced and should have been shown in previous trials that they have the potential. If there should be a limitation from the patient population for the extent, then I think it would be very challenging to, for example, have a first trial running 2.5 or 3 years, and then another one running over the same period of time. So in case, it's hard to give a general answer, but it should be realistic, and given a setup time of a trial that surely would last some months, maybe you want to conduct the first regulatory interaction also within that first year, and then you run the trial or the trials for 2 or 3 years, because maybe you want to see progression to geographic atrophy, as it's mentioned in the call text. Then you have to analyze the data, and then your trial is already over. So depends on the budget, but what would you have if you would have 2 identical trials but independent that may not really contribute that much? That may be more a formal thing. A classical confirmatory trial would be learning from your first trial and then executing your second, and there the period of time for this may be too short, at least for 2 longitudinal trials. Maybe different for cross-sectional trials.
Okay. We have a question, another one from Matthias Machacek. How about the need of analytical expertise? That is, the expertise to analyze clinical trial data that is longitudinal and highly multimodal. And is there consideration to include participations with this specific expertise?
Yeah, so I see 2 facets of this question. One is the classical statistical analysis, which ideally should be also part of working package 1. And this is mentioned in the call text that ideally the clinical trial statisticians sit within that working package. So we of course have advice from the EFPIA side. So we have senior statisticians to guide this, but the heavy lifts should be done either in the public consortium or should be outsourced from my perspective. To come to the multimodal imaging, so we are aware that there are centers, imaging reading centers, especially several of them looking especially at this multimodal imaging approaches and how to calculate this data as a research topic already. So there may be pre-existing work which also could be used as a kick-off, as a starting point for these future projects. So again, it's expected that there is expertise for especially multimodal imaging analysis within the public consortium.
Okay. We have a question from Ali Nasseri, who has raised his hand. So Ali, I'm just going to unmute you. Okay, you can go ahead and ask your question now. Hello? Okay, I don't know if Ali Nasseri can hear us, but Ali, if you want to ask a question, I suggest you type it into the questions panel, and then we will read it out then. We don't have any, Frauke, no, the hand has gone again. if any of the others of you have any questions, then do get typing. I don't see any other questions for the moment, so I will just remind you that all of the material that you need to apply, the call for proposal, the call text, all the details of how to apply are available online, and we really would advise you to read them. Jordi Alonso has written, do you foresee different designs other than clinical trials to achieve some of the objectives of the proposal?
Depends on the proposal. So there may be, especially in the patient-reported health measure section, there may be options, especially for in PRO generation, for concept elicitation and so on, that are outside the main clinical trials. But as normally regulators and HTA bodies and payors are basing their decision on clinical trial data, I would re-emphasize that this is really the backbone and the main focus. So it will have to be justified what other approaches, maybe Jordi could also give examples what you're thinking of what they could contribute to getting endpoints that are acceptable for regulators and payors.
Maybe I can add, looking at all these questions, that indeed when you look at the template for the submission of the short proposal, at this stage the proposal will be evaluated on two criteria: the excellence of the impact. So any, as we mentioned in the introduction, is that successful application or short proposal in a way addresses all the objectives. Now, in this excellence part, you really have to describe your concept, your approach, and make emphasis for convincing in a way, the expert reviewing the short proposal, is that approach can answer the objective, all the objective of the core topic, and deliver as the set deliverables set out in the core topic. So this is really important to keep in mind.
Thank you, Natalie. So I don't see any more questions for now, so I will say thank you very much to Friedrich for the presentation, and to Natalie as well for providing questions. Oh, we have one other question. So Jordi Alonso has clarified. Longitudinal comparisons, not necessarily based on interventions. Cross-sectional comparison of different types of patients could be useful. Natalie and Friedrich, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, sure. We're of course open to different trial designs as long as they're justified. So as I said also in response to Andrew's question, there could be a combination of a cross-sectional and longitudinal approach. So yes, and as we don't have any intervention, yeah, of course, these are both natural progression trials, and they could be done cross-sectionally or longitudinally or combined. So this is the input we need from the academic consortium, what based on their patient experience they consider best, and also probably to re-emphasize the not only have to impress with their proposal the EFPIA, but also this independent review committee. So it's not only that the leader and co-leader of our EFPIA consortium have to be convinced, but also independent reviewers. And for this, it's probably very important to really justify what kind of trial design could lead to which result, and what this could contribute then to the interaction with regulators and payors.
Maybe I can just, on what you said, Fritz, had a small clarification. Indeed, the short proposals received will be reviewed both by independent experts and EFPIA representative participates to the first stage. However, they do not participate to the final scoring and ranking of the short proposal. This is entirely left to the independent experts.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for this clarification.
Okay. We have come to the end of the questions so far, so if anyone else has a question, I suggest you type very fast. Otherwise, I will say thank you very much to both Friedrich and Natalie for their contributions, and I will wish the rest of you all the very best of luck with your applications. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everybody for joining, and successful application.
Okay, bye-bye.